today my guest is Jeevan Lobo. Hi, Jeevan. I hope I pronounced your name well. How are you today?
Oh, absolutely, David. Thank you very much. And firstly, Dobri Večer, Davide. So I hope I got that right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my Czech accent right, but I'm very good, David. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So at least, you can live more than 2 minutes in the Czech Republic because at least you will be polite with people. So that's a good start. That's a good
Sure.
start.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
And
yeah.
David, I just before we move on, I wanted to firstly congratulate you on the success of your ITSM value stream book. I've had a few glimpses of it, and most importantly, congratulations on going to be the speaker at the ITSMF UK annual conference. So I'm, fingers crossed. I'm sure you're going to rock the stage, as I already mentioned, but I'm sure you're going to do well. So congratulations to that, David.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's true that just the fact that I can talk, at this event as a speaker is an achievement by itself. So I am very happy. I hope it will be not the last time I can be there. But yeah, anyway, I will really enjoy it. Thank you.
So looking
Okay,
forward to it and all the best.
thanks. So Jeevan, let's start to talk about you a little bit. So can you introduce yourself, please, and of course, what interests me and interests our listeners is your experience in service management. So can you give me more information about that?
Sure, David. Thank you very much. So I'm Jeevan Lobo, and I'm based out of New Jersey in the US. A family man, blessed with two children, both teenagers, angry hormones, young hormones, both a son and a daughter in grade 10 and 9. And I've been blessed to work across geographies in India, Middle East, and the United States, and have a great opportunity to work with stakeholders across geographies. Now, having said that, I currently work with Citigroup as a Vice President, Security and Governance for a global web app hosting engineering team. And coming specifically to my ITSM and ITIL background, where we are so closely involved, and the commonalities that from an ITIL perspective, I started my ITIL V3 certification like 12 years ago. And that was my ITIL V3 foundation. And after that, I worked on my ITIL V3 expert. That took some time, but around 2015-ish, it took me 4 years after my foundation to understand and appreciate what I do in delivery and IT. But yeah, that was a real good, I'd say, a good starting point to get more into the IT services and delivery and the customer experience. So that's what it is. And in my current role, I play more of a risk and compliance position and in banking, risk and compliance is just with regulatory that comes primary. So that's what it is. And I've played ITSM delivery head roles before this in various sectors like health and life sciences, manufacturing, and from ITSM specifically, I've been very fortunate, I would say, to implement ITSM tool and processes for a greenfield customer, as in, absolutely new. They had the first chance to, they were alien to ITSM. They were doing it all Excel sheets. And so I had that great opportunity to work for it. It was a pharma life sciences client. And, so that was phase one. And if that was not good enough, I also had an opportunity to be a part of a merger and acquisition wherein we had to merge two ITSM processes, and that was a great, fantastic experience. This goes back way back like 3-4 years ago, but nevertheless, that's very helpful. And having said that, even though I play risk and compliance roles and product strategy roles today, my heart has always been ITSM. I mean, the process, the metrics, the foundations. Even today, I ask my team members or ask the peers to follow that continuous improvement culture and the process. And I try applying it both internally, externally, and that's really helped me. So I'll say my heart is ITSM, but I today play a different role of the risk and compliance.
Wow. Yes, what can I say? You are very experienced, and I would pick up a kind of 2 or 3 things of what you said. First, I like the fact that you really have an international experience. So that's very important, because the more you are international, the more you are open to different cultures, and we all know that culture in service management and in organization is a very important factor, maybe one of the most important factor, just to be sure that you can understand, see the importance of the processes, and also be sure that you can use these processes with the right culture. Then you can define what can be the processes that you can get. So thank you for that. If we talk about user ITSM, so let's say, okay, service management. I don't want to enter into the debate ITSM or service management, with this IT. We are all work in IT. You are also specialized also in IT. And what about, service management supporting digital transformation, for instance, in the bank where you work? What is your experience about that? About
Oh, yeah.
service management and digital transformation?
Thanks for your question, David. And it's so relevant today because everyone's speaking, the buzzword is digital transformation, not now, like 5, 10 years ago, but yeah. So digital transformation, I'd like to bring it down to very basics. So what is digital basically, right? I mean, if I want to go, if it's another audience may be very different and from different backgrounds. So what is digital transformation? It is the shift from paper to computer. So if you're doing anything, like for example, from office memos to right now how we are working on a Teams collaboration app, right? From sticky notes to digital enterprise applications. So digital transformation is all about moving digital. And even what was said and done, we speak digital and we assume it's very technical and it's all, but there is a big, huge cultural shift that has to happen to allow, which involves transforming organization workflows so that they work and make use of a digital environment. So now having said that, where does digital transformation help, right? Because by digitization, by doing digital transformation, it helps organizations move faster and they are more robust and they are more capable of adapting well to any changing business needs. So for example, the whole cloud readiness, right? That is very clearly inevitable, seeing that organizations who were digitally transformed were quicker and able to adapt to cloud quicker rather than people who are moving in a very different way. So that is something I would like to speak about digital transformation. Now, coming to my experience, where I have, I want to, as I mentioned in the introduction, I'd like to drive down the memory lane and see how I've used maybe service management principles to enable digital transformation. So point number one, ITSM or IT service management helps streamline the organization's IT process. And I'd like to give an example. For example, the service desk, which are there in most organizations, ITSM helps define the roles and responsibilities of service desk technicians and make the process transparent to the stakeholders. So, for example, if it were not, now when you're coming to digitization or digital transformation specifically, you're trying to ensure that you have your roles and responsibilities defined. The service desk know what they need to do. Everything is digital, SOP. Imagine if they had to do it on a paper, or you're doing a lot of, imagine the chaos. And the bigger the organizations, all this is much better managed if it were digital. So that's my point number one. Secondly, when we speak about IT service management, I want to talk about change management, right? Change management is so critical right now. Not now, it's been everywhere. Whenever you make changes, you are sure that there's going to be a problem because something's going to go wrong. The big CXOs are not able to sleep, or they are restless because they know something's going to break. So the recording of changes in a centralized tool or an ITSM tool. Now you've got the best, you've got the ServiceNows, you've got the other big ITSM tools, but recording of changes, ensuring that they are reviewed and approved by all the big infrastructure heads, application heads, security heads, providing the visibility to the senior leadership. All of these will also basically, this is an example of how ITSM helps streamline the organization IT process. So that's point number one. And I'll quickly move to point number 2 and 3, and I'll maybe pass it over to you. Point number 2 is more about how does ITSM definitely helps stakeholders leverage data. So basically, you've got a lot of data, but what do the stakeholders need to look at? How can they make informed decisions? They can make decisions only when they see something where they can act upon it. And that's where I would say ITSM is of great usability. For example, you can look at knowledge management, for example, right? A lot of people do a lot of work, but in the olden days, when we transition, I'm talking 10, 20 years ago, people would have a lot of information, but in their head. And any new person would be stuck. Oh, they wouldn't know what to do. But thanks to the whole digital transformation concept, people are now having them stored in knowledge articles. So a new person coming in can just go through those standard operating procedures, knowledge articles, get access, and boom, by the day 2 or 3, they're ready to be production ready. So that's something which is very good. The problem management, on the other hand, like my very favorite topic, RCAs, the root cause analysis, right? When you know you get repeating errors, when you know you've got this happening, say, across sites, and you know there's a pattern and a trend and a design, it's very helpful. And more importantly, when you go up to the stakeholders and show them, you know what, you could have saved X million dollars if you had to implement or invest in a technology upgrade. And you know, where's the data? Okay, thanks to the ITSM tool, we got it recorded, we've got the problem, and we've got the RCA. So all of these is so, you know, I can't emphasize more on how this it helps stakeholders to make better decisions because of the tool. And last but not the least, and something very close to my heart, is it helps break down the internal silos. So, you know, you've got people, even within IT, right? You don't have a person from a development team would not speak to an operations team because, you know, I know we've got DevOps now, we got everything now, but ensuring that you break down or you make the entire, you have a concept called as ESM today, Enterprise Service Management. I know you endorse it a lot, you speak a lot about it yourself, but
Yeah.
you know, when you, for example, a typical example is onboarding of new employees. You've got to integrate systems between HR, between IT, between finance. With ESM or Enterprise Service Management, you have an orchestrated approach. You look at it from a business point of view, end to end, right? Right from a person joins in, you get your badge, you get your access, you have a security involvement too. So you have end to end. Then you've got a seat identified, then IT is prompted to go, you know, so there are facilities get involved, procurement gets involved, every team gets involved, and you have a workflow which is already in place, and anyone can, the manager can review it. So what does, by with having all these steps automated, you ensure that no one drops the ball and the person is actually getting onboarded on time. So these are the three main points I wanted to, you know, just give about my experience on how service management is supporting digital transformation there.
No, thank you for this very, very elaborated answer. I mean, yeah, you said I don't want to repeat what you said because then we would need at least 2 more hours. But but yes, it's very I think that you really uh, used a lot of concepts that are now really structuring the approach of service management, like the ESM, like the fact that this example with the onboarding, it's true that you can see that from different perspectives. Okay, you can say also, and one important thing, and what you said is about the visibility, collaboration, so breaking the silo, making sure that you give the decision maker the visibility. I think these are the constant, I would say, the constant thing that people should have in their mind when we talk about IT service management. You know, this kind of uh, perpetual vision they should have. Give visibility, break the silos when they are not, because you can have some silos that are not, a bad thing by themselves,
Yeah.
but in many cases, silos are not optimal and are not good for an organization. So where you need to address that, and of course, it's a good thing. So thank you for that, and thank you for giving us your insight on digital transformation. As you said, it's a buzzword. As it is a buzzword, it needs to be clarified. And what about, we talk about service management, and this podcast is also and mainly about value management. I really insist on that. So for instance, when we talk about service management, it's focusing also on value co-creation, as they say in idle. And what is the definition of value realized from services, from your point of view? What would you say? What is a value from a service?
Yeah. So the way I usually like to do is I like to break it down and make it, because I like to break it down and understand myself, and also maybe provide an opportunity to get to an audience, right? And I feel a little, what do you say, threatened here because I know you're the expert in value management. So please validate my answers, David.
No, no, no.
But, sure.
There is no. We are talking as
Yeah.
peers, and so no. I want you really
Sure.
sincerely to know
Sure.
your view on that.
Absolutely. So basically, when you speak about value creation, and I'm going back to the ITIL V3 because that's when value got introduced as a concept. And then going back to my books and going to my review, what I got is okay, just look at the definition. What it says is anything with perceived benefits, usefulness, importance of something to a business is value, right? So, and it stopped there. So basically, something as basic as you turn a labor, you had your SIPOC model wherein you got, I'm sorry, it is like you give inputs, you put some transformation or some process, and you get outputs, and that has to be useful, then you create value. So that was what value specifically was. Then came another term called as co-creation, which is more closely related to the ITIL 4 foundation, ITIL 4 basically, right? Which is, and what is co-creation? It's basically, it moved a little more bigger. It moved to a business strategy level, right? Is as like, how does the business strategy focus on customer experience, interactive relationships? We speak about enterprise service management. So that's where the co-creation part came into it. And now, when you look at value, as we spoke about it, right? It was just a term initially being introduced in ITIL 3, and in ITIL 4, it's become like the buzzword for ITIL 4 is value and value, value, value. And for me, the definition of value is basically it's realized from services, I'm sorry, from all providers. And this is where the difference is, right? So in the ITIL 3 V3 world, it could have been only 1:1 or 1:2, but here we are talking about all providers, suppliers, vendors, subcontractors, clients, customers, all of these elements collaborating together, right, to achieve a common business goal. Now, in the past, we did have value, but they would be perhaps in a smaller value. When I say it would not reach up to an organization business level, but now we are having everyone collaborate, achieve a common business goal, and that business goal could be anything as reducing cost, reducing time, improving productivity, you try to make your processes more agile so that you get your customer inputs and ensure that you're delivering them. So long story short, value as such, for me, my definition realized from services is you have the collaboration, you have the people, any stakeholder, sponsor, all join in together, work on a common goal, and achieve and provide a desired result that is eventually tangible, and which is directly giving a business goal effect. So those are my honest 2 cents to it, David.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. You could be, I think, I don't know, I will never influence that, but you could be the author of the next title book.
No.
No, but I mean, the fact is that we assume in many cases that value is from a provider to a customer, and you said right that value is a matter of stakeholders, and it has to be shared as the vision, as it is at the end of this in this service value chain. You start with a demand, you finish with a value. Okay, but yes, it is not a value for somebody, it is the value for all the stakeholders involved and engaged. So I like this definition. Thank you. Okay, so if we continue with this value management, in organization, and I probably also in your organization, you have PMO, you have project management office, but you also have in many organizations SMO, you have service management office. And when we talk about value management, last night I was thinking about that, and I said, okay, you have PMO, you have SMO. Why can't we have in an organization a value management office? Does it make sense? And if yes, what would be its role and its place in an organization?
I mean, fantastic, relevant, and a very creative question. I mean, very good. See, my view is we definitely need a value management office. I mean, we call it, as you said, VMO, right?
Yeah.
Now, we need to consistently question and all the time ask, why do we need to do a task? Why do we need to do an activity? Why? So most of the time, people are giving us SOPs. People are giving us instructions. We don't even question ourselves, or we do not know how does my input help the bigger business. We don't go there yet, right? So we need to understand why quickly rather than trigger a dissatisfied customer. That is my view, right? And so definitely we need a value management office, VMO. And if I had to design my organization, and if I had the chance to be a CXO someday, I would definitely have VMO as a part in the CEO organization, which would basically add value, strategy, input to the board and senior leadership, right? That is how much, because people are so used to the traditional, mundane, rigorous, robust routines that they don't have time to even question and know, why am I doing this? Does it add value? What is the business purpose? So definitely that is what I would want. And secondly, some roles or some of the objectives of this VMO, or which I want to create, would be like, number one, evaluate and assess what services are being offered and actually provide value to the customer, right? So you may be a product company, maybe a service company, maybe a function, you may be a business unit, but I'm doing something. Am I actually adding value? If not, can I quantify it? Is just a customer not a good answer, or am I getting repeat business? Am I able to make a leaner process? So those are the questions that I'll constantly ask, right? And I will use tools like surveys, maybe the industry benchmarking, maybe I'll evaluate the return of investment of what I'm trying to do. And if I observe that there are a lot of non-value added services, I'd go report it to the leadership and ask them, hey, you know what? This is a this is not adding you value. Maybe you need to think about it in a different way, or I'm putting a proposal. So that would be number one key role. The second role of this VMO would be being a center of excellence. So when I say center of excellence, they would use continuous improvement as a key principle. And they use the methodology over rinse, repeat, and they evaluate best practices across the verticals, industry, and implement them. So, for example, I'm in the banking finance, so you look at other banks which have implemented, say a security control, or maybe introduction of new services. How do they do it in the least amount of time with maximum productivity? I'm giving you an example. So try to look at what is there in a different sector, or in the same sector, or maybe a different function, and see how much could be used here. Is it customizable? But that's the second big role of the VMO. And the third one is definitely training and influence value. The whole thing, one of the big goals is, how do I drive that value mindset culture into every employee in the organization? So, how do the organization breathe the value so that they're going ahead and spreading it? So this would be the three main roles, and I definitely propagate for a VMO in an organization. But yeah, that's what I would like to say, David.
Brilliant. I really like that, and thank you for that. I really think that there is a place for that, and as everything new, there can be another name. But yes, definitely, I like the way you said that, and you have a clear vision about what it should be, where it should be, and what should it do. So thank you for that. Very good. What is your experience also with we were touching ITIL. We were talking about ITIL many times in our talks today, but generally speaking, what is your experience with a service management framework? We know that ITIL is not the only one, of course. And do you recommend some particular frameworks, or do you think that it's better to have a kind of combination of different frameworks? What's your view of frameworks and their use in service management?
So, I mean, when I started my career, especially in the IT space, a little more seriously, like 20, 15 years ago, I was a lot on Six Sigma. I was a yellow belt, I was a green belt. I started there. And then moving into IT managed services, ITL process was followed. Having said that, I've also worked on COBIT. I worked on, some of the other frameworks, right? And if you ask me, I wouldn't like people, and I've seen this sometimes, people get so much lost. I also use Agile, Scrum, and Kanban, and all of them. But people sometimes get too lost in the framework rather than actually following what is required. I've seen people who are so bothered to get their Jira boards right, to get the productivity KPI right, when the actual work is not done. So I would not like to go crazy on any framework, but rather use it as a guiding principle, right? Rather than all of this, I'll rather focus on value that can be provided to the customer. Now, the customer is not going to ask you what's your backend framework or backend tool. There's a lot of reference guides.
Yeah.
You need to provide the service, but I wouldn't be too lost in that, right? But yeah, they for example, and also I'm not asking people to just look at one framework. Let them use as many, but give the result what the customer wants. For example, you can have ITIL, you have DevOps, you have SAFe. You could use multiple at the same, but ensure that you don't get too much lost on the framework and the thing, but give the value to the customer, right? And there are some scenarios also when you don't need a framework at all. You just need common sense, or just need some logic wherein you're actually going to look at the specific situation scenario and give, end of the day, give the result, give the value, rather than get lost in the framework. But definitely use frameworks as a guiding principle, but don't get too lost on them.
Yeah, good. I think it's very wise and absolutely the best way to do that. The result first. So and how? So that means the framework. Leave it to the people and leave it free. So yes, good. Thank you. Okay, so you are very experienced. We discovered that before when you were talking about your career, and for instance, you are like me, passionate in ITSM, in service management, and if one of our listeners here would like to start his or her career in service management, what would you advise to this person? Okay, I am finishing school and now I would like to work, for instance, in service management, or I am an experienced person and I am interested in working in service management. What would you advise?
Yeah, it's a great question, David. And I'm at that mid-40s age wherein the time has come to coach. The time has come to help and guide. So no, so quite naturally, I don't think we should. The one thing is people should not get overwhelmed or feel, oh, what is this ITSM, IT service management? People should, I advise my kids too also that, don't get lost in terminologies, because these are the terminologies which scare people, right? I've lost half my hair because of that, because people scare you.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so number one advice, don't get too lost in the terminologies or what people say or what people have said, because people are there to scare you. You have so much of content and so many things, and you don't have to get there, number one, right? Secondly, having said that, if I would advise folks to firstly, if they want to take up an ITSM track or they have some interest in IT, either land themselves in a service desk job. I mean, because that's a foundation. You make as many mistakes. It's like your playground. I'm not telling them to make mistakes, but it's a playground because you have standard operating procedure. It's a good opportunity to understand, to not only build customer service skills, but also you understand a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, I'm telling you about how I started my career. So, I'm just telling you that's a very personal thing. But yeah, I think I learned a lot because I was the front end support. At that time, it was email technical support. So I would get emails. I at least knew how to draft an email even if I didn't learn any IT or anything, at least I knew how to draft an email. I mean, take the positives, right? And then if a person is a little more technical, has done a computer degree, they would say, okay, let's go to start anyway with terminology. Right? Understand what is an incident, why is it required, what is a service request, why is it required, how it will help the business, and try to think of it as a story, as something which you like, because if you already made up your mind, it's so hard, it's difficult, you'll not be able to work on it. So try to get the basic terminology, understand what it is, try to correlate it in layman's terms, look at real world examples, translate that to your personal life and see, okay, why do I need to do an RCF? Just for example, why do I need to do a root cause analysis? What is the root cause analysis? And then take that to a personal thing in your life, right? And just say, okay, I get up late every day. Because of getting up late every day, what do I miss in life? And if I have to fix it, the root cause is getting up late. So if I fix it, what else can I achieve by doing this? And then translate that into an IT. Things become very easier. Again, this works for me, may not be for all, but I think that is something which I would advise. And my suggestion is, let the freshers or the people who are new to IT SM first get familiarized. Along with getting familiarized with the ITIL vocabulary, they need to slowly apply it, right? They need to apply it wherever they go. They need to just listen to some videos, listen to a lot of content there, podcasts. I would like I follow you, I follow Jeffrey, I follow Wasim. There are a lot of these guys who give a lot of good content and basic content. Start there. What happens is you may not get it quite realistically, you may not get it instantly. A person from college cannot pick up what we say, but as you do it over time, like over say a month, 2, 3 months, you'll be able to understand better and you speak about it and then practice it like a language. You can't learn language overnight. You need to speak. Hope you are having more podcasts with me so that I can learn at least by the 20th time I can speak better next with you. So that's my advice, David, right? So just try to practice it more, understand it more, correlate with your real examples, but don't have a preconceived notion, oh, it's hard, I can't do it, and have those assumptions, because we need people in this space. We need people to have to provide good value to us, to our customers.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You give me an idea. I think that I will do something related to the Czech language. For instance, each of my guests, I will ask them to learn one keyword, and one for you at the end will be pivo. Pivo in Czech, it means beer, and pivo, that's what I wrote in one of my last blog. Sorry, you can use pivo, so PIVO, and then you understand or you remember the 4 dimension of ITIL. P, partners, and suppliers. I, information and technology. V, value streams and processes. O, organization and people. So each time you drink a beer in the Czech Republic, you remember the 4 dimension of ITIL. So you see, life is easy. Just take a beer and you will understand ITIL. Good. Thank you very much. And when we are talking about drinking beer, what do you do in your free time, Jeevan? What are your hobbies, if you have any?
Yeah. So David, I love I try to be busy. I love staying active in body and mind. I try to be fit, though I don't look fit. My wife is my biggest critique. I'm a 5 a.m. CrossFit gym guy. I try. I'm not the heavy. No, I like it because it has a combination of both conditioning and some weightlifting and some body muscle strength. So I love that. I try working out 5 to 7 days a week. But at least 5 is what I make it on. And on the weekends, I want to go easy. I usually play volleyball. That's my favorite sport since a couple of decades. And as we speak, I'm trying to coach my kids to play volleyball too. And so that's what I do from a physical activity standpoint. And to energize my mind, I love listening to music. I do crazy karaoke sometimes, and in different languages too. So now I've picked up a little bit of Spanish. So I do a little of my latest passion is singing in Spanish, and based on the season, based on the situation, I like doing that. And I also spoke about new languages. I try to learn new languages, and then I try my best to go to the church every day. I try to make it as a part of my ritual. It's 4 out of 7, but usually it depends on the time slot and the meetings and everything. But yeah, 30 minutes, a quiet prayer with God without the phone helps me energized before I get to the busy day. And during the summer, and I'm feeling sad, the summer's getting over, I take a ride on my motorcycle. I got a Suzuki Boulevard. They call it a poor man's Harley. So that's something which it's just a couple of months, and then we get into the winters when it's all shut down. And but the best time is during the fall, when it's lovely to take a motorcycle ride during the fall. You can just watching it on the bike is much better than driving through a car. So that's one. And of late, I love volunteering. So I think I help volunteer at where I work, at the church and charity organizations. So yeah, this keeps me going. So these are the things that keep me busy other than work.
Yeah, I really like that, and I really like what you said. Is to have a healthy body and healthy mind, and so that's very important because everybody is now talking about this balance between the work life and the life with your family, but also this balance that we don't talk about is, not everybody is keen on sport, but this balance between, yes, your mental health and your physical health, it's not a balance, you need both. So how you can, make sure that you can maintain all that together, that's very important. And I like that, and I also like the fact that you think about the others, you what you do with this charity organization. So thank you for that. And we are now at the end of this podcast. It was really, really my pleasure to have you, Jeevan, today.
Same here, David. Thank you very much. And so it's so worked out so seamlessly. Until today, we've not seen each other, but just a few emails, contacts, and I'm so happy that I'm thankful that I got an opportunity to be a part of your podcast, and wishing you all the best for your ITSMF conference. And I'm looking forward to hearing snippets of it, or if you can share the details. All the best.
Thank you very much. Just stay with me with 1 minute. So this podcast was proposed by Osiris Global, and we propose different services in service management. We are, like Jeevan, passionate about what we do, and just follow us on our website, on LinkedIn, and on all the platforms where you will get this fabulous podcast with Jeevan. You can listen to it, you can look at it, you can do it once, twice, 1,000 times, anytime you want, because it was my real pleasure once again. Thank you very much, Jeevan.
Thank you very much, David. Have a good day.
Thank you.